All right, so our second lesson, we don't have any additional vocab. We're still on the same learning target. A couple of slightly different objectives. We're still focusing on correctly evaluating order of operations. And today we're going to add, I can complete an order of operations equation. So we'll see what that means. So set up your notes. We're starting with grouping symbols. The first task is to use grouping symbols to make each statement true. So if we look at our first statement, we should multiply before we add. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 plus 1 is 22, which is not 24, so we need to add grouping symbols somewhere. Well, we really only have two options in this case. We can put grouping symbols around the 1 plus 7, or we could put grouping symbols around the 7 times 3. Grouping symbols around the 7 times 3 doesn't change anything because we are supposed to multiply before we divide. So I'm going to go ahead and get those out of there. And let's check this out and see what happens. If I add 1 plus 7 first, 8 times 3 does give me 24. So that will be where we want to place those grouping symbols. Let's take a look at one more. And in this case, we should do our division first, but of course 8 doesn't divide into 3 evenly, so we probably wouldn't be getting a whole number out of this. So we want to think about where might our parentheses help us. Well, I could put parentheses in front of the division symbol. 15 minus 3 is 12, but 8 doesn't go into 12 evenly either. So I could also throw grouping symbols or parentheses around the 8 plus 4. 15 minus 3 is 12. 8 plus 4 is 12, and 12 divided by 12 is indeed 1. This slide is a bit more challenging, and unfortunately there really isn't a formula that I can give you to follow to create an expression that works every time. So it is guess and check. So let's take a look at our first one and see if we can't get some educated guesses to get us to the answer a little bit faster. So we're given 4 numbers, 2, 4, 6, and 12. We have to use all of them to write an expression that equals 3. You can use grouping symbols, you can addition, subtraction, and multiplication, division, but none of these are exponents. These are actual numbers, so we're not going to be using exponents. So what I would start to do is mess with some of the numbers to see how they might get me to 3. Well, I know 12 divided by 4 gets me to 3, but I still have this 2 and 6 to work with, and I don't know that I can keep it at 3. So I probably don't want to do 12 divided by 4. So I could think about if I could get 2, 4, and 6 to stay as 4, but that 4 in there might throw me off a little bit. So I could do 6 minus 2. I'm just going to start jotting down some ideas. That would give me 4. How could I work with that to get to 3? Well, 12 divided by 4 gives me 3, but I've still got that extra 4, so I don't know if I'm quite on the right track. So then I will think about maybe 4 minus 2. 4 minus 2 gives me 2. And if I do 12 divided by 2, that gives me 6. But I don't think I can do 6 and 6 to get 3. So maybe I want to do maybe some addition. If I did, let's see, 6 plus 2 minus 4. 6 plus 2 gives me 8. 8 minus 4 is 4. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. So hopefully my thinking through my thought process helped you out a little bit. All right. One more. So depending on how long it takes me to think through this one, this video might be a little closer to 6 minutes. So we're going to use these 4 numbers to write an expression that equals negative 16. So my first thought when I see these numbers is I probably want to start with negative 9 and somehow subtract some values to get to negative 16. But 3 plus 4 plus 5 gives me too much, because negative 9 minus 7 gives me negative 16. So that 5 kind of throws things off. So I might want to subtract an amount and add an amount. So I'm going to start playing around with that. So if I take negative 9 and I subtract 5, that would give me negative 14. And if I subtract 4, that would give me negative 18. So adding back the 3 would give me a negative 15. So I'm close, but I need to kind of fudge these numbers a little bit more. So maybe if I take negative 9, what if I multiply some numbers together? Maybe if I subtracted, I don't want to subtract too much, so I'm going to take the two smaller numbers. 3 times 4, that gives me 12. If I add back on the 5, where do I get? Negative 9 minus 12 plus 5. Negative 9 minus 12 is negative 21. Adding back on the 5 does give me a negative 16. And finally, the your turn problems. Make sure you pause the video so you can write these down and try these before you get to class tomorrow.